Hello, this is Tony Heller from RealClimateScience.com. I realized a long time ago that the climate debate was not about climate at all. It was about propaganda. What has kept me interested in this has been studying the techniques which propagandists use. Jonathan Swift said, "You can't reason a man out of a position he was never reasoned into." When we moved to Boulder, Colorado in 1995, a lot of the locals had this sort of bumper sticker on their car, which read, "Question Authority." Liberal Democrats used to pride themselves in their questioning of authority. But that changed 15 years ago when they elected a person whom they believed was their messiah. After the year 2008, questioning authority was like blasphemy. Barack Obama promised to fundamentally transform America, and this is how he did it. Obama is a master of appeals to authority. He made this tweet 10 years ago this week. 97% of scientists agree climate change is real, man-made, and dangerous. He just made the numbers up, and there's no truth to what he's saying, but it's very effective propaganda. After he said this, it was no longer possible for Democrats to question the climate crisis. His baseless claims became liturgy of the global warming movement. Now let's look at some other examples of appeals to authority. Here's one from CNN a few days ago. Scientists consider 1.5 degrees of warming as a key tipping point beyond which the chances of extreme flooding, drought, wildfires, and food shortages could increase dramatically. The first appeal to authority is the use of these words. Scientists consider 1.5 degrees of warming as a key tipping point. They want people to believe that there's some sort of agreement in the scientific community that we're close to 1.5 degrees of warming and that after we pass it, the climate is going to be in big trouble. CNN wants people to believe that there's a general agreement in the scientific community about the propaganda which CNN has been pushing for many years. And the idea of a tipping point is a particularly insidious use of propaganda. The idea behind a tipping point is that you may not see any evidence of any trouble happening now, but we're suddenly going to cross a threshold where all hell is going to break loose. Forest fire burn acreage in the United States is down 80% since the 1930s as carbon dioxide levels have increased. Correspondingly, precipitation levels in the United States have continued to increase, and we haven't had really bad droughts like in the 1930s and 1950s. Crop yields around the world have been steadily increasing. Crop yields in the United States have increased rapidly. And malnutrition around the world has dropped sharply over the last 30 years. None of these predictions which CNN is making under the name of scientists show any evidence of coming true. But the idea of a tipping point is that you may not see it coming, but this disaster is going to envelop the world very quickly and without warning. This sort of propaganda removes any rational thought or integrity from the process. Climate alarmists have been pushing these tipping points for decades. In 1989, the United Nations said we only had until the year 2000 to save the planet from global warming. Well, we made it past the year 2000, but then in 2006, Al Gore said we only had until the year 2016 to save the planet from global warming. There seems to be no limit to how many insidious tipping points climate alarmists feel they can get away with predicting. Now let's look at another type of propaganda. There's been a lot of whales dying recently offshore in New Jersey near offshore wind farms. The state's Environmental Protection Commissioner says this has nothing to do with the wind farms and the whales are dying because of climate change. And he said, "I hear multiple points of mis- and disinformation on this topic every day. I find it rather frustrating, if I can be honest." But he's not being honest at all. Whales live in a very wide variety of climates and they regularly migrate between the tropical regions and near the poles. Whales thrive near icebergs, and they also thrive near Hawaii. The suggestion that some minor changes in the weather are causing whales to die offshore in New Jersey is patently absurd. It's the Environmental Protection Commissioner who's spreading the mis- and disinformation. And the press parrots his nonsense because he's an authority. I posted this on Twitter and got a very interesting response. An anonymous troll posted, "Tony, problem. You have a history of lying to support fossil fuels, so why are they paying you to mislead on this story?" He or it didn't make any attempt to dispute anything I was saying, but instead they made very bold statements in an attempt to divert the discussion. This is a common type of appeal to authority on social media. People make very bold and strong statements pretending that they know what they're talking about. They're hoping to fool people into believing that they're saying something meaningful. I'm going to finish this up with one more type of appeal to authority, and this one's brand new. I asked this question to Bing AI. When will global warming wipe out the human race? And it responded by saying we can save the planet with courage, compassion, and creativity. Artificial intelligence doesn't know anything about courage, compassion, or creativity. Those are human concepts. This is just a piece of software parodying propaganda, but they want people to believe that this is artificial intelligence, that a super smart computer figured this out all by itself. So I will end this with an important question. Which one is the greater authority, a messiah or an artificial intelligence program? Toto has been pulling back the curtain on this nonsense for the past 15 years. You can visit him, Kyrie Caesar, Toki Upla, and the 4 new puppies on the web at realclimatescience.com.